leaving anything out? Oh yes, I am leaving a lot out. Not one little bit, please. Well, I'm afraid I must leave out a good deal, but I won't willingly leave anything out now if I can help it. Well, then please do not. Conceive, then, that they are these two. One reigns over the region of things of the mind, the other over those of the eye. And so he starts. Conceive, therefore, that there are two things. One reigns over the things of the eye, the visible world, and the other over the intellectual world, right? And that is the good, or the one. Now, Plato, carefully to push this analogy with great care, he says, therefore, for the sun there is a light, and that light therefore nourishes, develops, and provides the principle of growth for all things. So here we have the sun and its light. And here he says the good, which is the highest term, just as the sun gives birth to its light, so the good gives birth to the most brilliant light of being. This is sometimes called, as we've said before, the divine luminosity. Then he says, look here, you know what we have to do? We have to represent this. We have to represent this as a line. He said, let's cut a line in such a way that the smaller is to the greater in a very interesting way. As the whole is to the greater, so the greater is to the smaller. That's called a golden section, which is the most beautiful of all proportions. So therefore, you must cut, therefore, each accordingly. Therefore, we can say these are the divisions. That means, therefore, that this is the greater in the greater, and this is the greater in the lesser. Now he says, you know what? Because in the world of sight, all right, now this becomes the basis for the allegory of the cave. Right here we have the allegory of the cave. We can draw the allegory of the cave right on top of this. And we might do that in a few minutes. But now in these divisions, he's going to show the cognitive functions of the mind. And the curious thing about it, you see, is that the language he uses for this is a subject of great dispute because people want to call it one term rather than another. But I'm going to stay pretty close to the actual wording itself. Now, I have the Rouse translation. I also have the Republic and many other translations. But I just want to show it to you. All right? That's called the divided line. It's a structure. This is the Platonic tetralogies. Now he says, this is the images seen. This is the source of them. In the same way, when we're talking about the higher metaphysical functions, he says, here we have the very interesting property of understanding. And here we have the use of the exercise of the highest part of the mind, the intellect. Now, this part is to this part, this is the realm of opinion. This is the realm of the intelligible. What does opinion mean? Opinion means, into Plato, any statement you make about anything in the visible world. Any statement you make about the visible world is the realm of opinion. There is a cup on the podium. Ah! That statement belongs in the class of opinion. Since everything I'm saying about it is in the visible world, therefore all the statements about the visible world are in two classes. You either can make statements about the things that are seen, or you can talk about the moment of its apperception. That is to say, you either can talk about its sensation, or you can talk about it as the process of perceiving. Now, therefore, this often is called pistis, or belief. And this is called, very often, it gets the proper name of image thinking. So therefore, the way the particular images strike our consciousness, or the created image in the mind, that's this realm, picture thinking. Now, if you get to the source of them, that's belief. In here, equally well, there's certain objects that belong to each. Now, here are simple ideas that are only apprehended by the understanding and have nothing to do whatsoever with the visible world. So all statements that deal in philosophy with statements about the intellectual world belong in the class of understanding. And I'll make one up. All right? Here we have one. The intellectual grasp of the divine luminosity is always accompanied with a state of bliss. Now, nothing I've said belongs in the world of appearance. It all has to do with the mind. Therefore, it's in the realm of the intelligible. All the ideas I spoke about in that are simple ideas. Now, there are another class of ideas which are called the intelligible ideas, the Platonic forms, so they're sometimes called. Beauty itself. Beauty itself. Justice itself. Ideas such as that, they're called the Platonic forms in the true sense. So now, you know what that means? That means two things, you see. That we have four functions of the soul, or the psyche, if you prefer. That is, when we receive images directly, when we try to trace them back to their origin, when we try to enter into the realm of understanding and only talk about things of the mind, and then we go to their primordial source. So therefore, we're dealing with understanding and the exercise of intellect. Different. Now, let's see if we can talk about this in another way. If there is a particular interesting practice that can bring you to an insight into beauty itself, then I'm going to describe it in a certain way, and then you'll be able to grasp those ideas simply. They become therefore objects of the understanding. But now if you try to apply them, put it into practice, use it to see whether or not there really is a thing called beauty in itself, that's the exercise of the intellect, and you're going over here.